Dick, we're here.
Yes, we are.
All right. Well, heavy stuff going on right now.
Yes, yes. Recently, today is January 27th, 2026, as we record. Recently, there have been I'm just going to say it, I don't have to use any protective language to make sure the
Oh
algorithm doesn't,
no,
the
the
murders
killings. Yeah.
of the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And not only them, they're the white individuals who were their deaths were on camera and they're white, so they're getting more attention. But there are nine total individuals who have been killed in the within 2026. I actually have a list of all of their names, and I feel like they should be said.
Yeah.
So there's Alex Pretty, Renee Good, Keith Porter, Herbert Sanchez Dominguez, Victor Manuel Diaz, Parody Law, Luis Beltran, Yanez Cruz, Gustav, Luis Gustavo Nuez Canceres, and Geraldo Lunes Campos. They all deserve remembrance. They all deserve justice. And if I messed up any names, I really apologize. I'm terrible with pronouncing names correctly. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it's known that we're thinking and really mourning all of them.
Absolutely. And one of the things that's really bothered me, and I've even called it out on social media, is that Alex Pretty and Renee Good's names are always at the top of the list. And it's not necessarily in the order of the killings or the murders. And so it bothers me. And I'm asking questions like, hey, why are these
Mhm.
people at the top? Everyone else is down at the bottom. Like, it's not alphabetical order. I don't believe it's in order of the murders. So to
It's not
me,
chronological.
no, to me, it shows a priority of importance. And of course, the white man is at the very top. Now, like, what's also bothering me as a white person is that it's taken all of this to get people to kind of see what's actually going on when it's been here all along. Like, I mean, we've always had these conflicts with law enforcement, with police, and they've always been especially brutal toward minority populations and especially black people. And I mean, the LA riots in the early 90s, right? Like,
Hmm.
that's what these were all about. And like the Black Panthers, and like, it's bothering me that it's taking, and even then, there's still some people who are resistant to it, but
Hmm.
like it's taken a white man getting killed by law enforcement for people to finally be like, oh wow, this is a problem.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think that you're 100% right. I think that if we take a historical context to look at it, the only reason why the Rodney King beating and the LA riots were really popularized was because it was caught on film, right?
Yeah.
And then black people specifically have been talking about this since we were brought in chains, kidnapped and taken and enslaved in this nation, in this country,
Right.
in this at the colony as it was then. So it's really important to contextualize that we've been saying this and we haven't been heard or listened to in the time and all this time. And then now there's video so that it's easier to be able to be shared across different platforms so other people see the brutality that occurs. And now when white people are being the ones at the end of the gun, they're losing their proximity to white privilege. They're losing their proximity or their ability to engage with and earn the privilege and all of the things that come with white supremacy culture when they become a race traitor, when they stop others, they support black and brown people, they try to de-arrest individuals, they try to help people who are being taken and kidnapped by ICE. When they do those things, they lose what people believe is whiteness, and then they're able to be treated like all other individuals, black, brown, Native American, sometimes Asian. They're treated like those individuals when they lose that white supremacy culture privilege.
Yeah. It's almost like we're finally seeing people be like, "Oh shit, this could happen to me too." And it's
Hmm.
like that reality's always been there. And I don't know, maybe it just takes that experience for people to finally come to that understanding. But at least people are starting to listen, at least people are starting to come around. It's frustrating. I wish I could change all the things, and this is not white woman tears. I want to be very clear,
No, no, yeah.
but it's as somebody who's very social justice driven, very like I want things to be equitable. I want things to be appropriate for everybody, and I want us all to have what we need. I'm very socialist, as you could probably tell.
Yeah.
It's really hard, and those feelings are valid. You know, the anger that a lot of people are
Hmm.
expressing, like, well, what's made you all take so long?
Hmm.
It's so valid, so valid. And so, trying to tone police any of that as well is not it, folks. So, if you're seeing that, please call it out.
Yeah, exactly. And like a lot of black people are very frustrated and they will continue to be with the responses of especially white people who are just now getting to understand that that poem first they came is now getting to them, and now people are coming for them and it's like, oh, this is serious. And I even had people in the comments of the video that I recently made talking about that. They said that they're very I asked black people like, hey, what are your feelings, what are your emotions, and they're worried that after this stops hurting white people will stop caring about it happening and stop caring about it happening to other people. Like when I say that, when they say that the police are going to come with ICE and that the National Guard is going to come, and a lot of white people think, oh, the National Guard and the police are going to protect us from ICE. I have to say that a government law enforcement agency by any other name is just as violent. So
Yes.
they're going to support each other and they're not going to protect you, the civilian, the person on the street. So that really needs to be heard and understood. And and sometimes it's not going to be understood until white people are at the end of the gun and they're saying F the police next. And it's like, oh man, we understand what you're saying about abolish ICE because they're killing us. And I've had somebody say, I agree with abolish ICE, but abolish the police is going too far. And it's like this American propaganda that's got you thinking that we can't have a better world, that you can't imagine without the police, has really done a number, because we can have systems of care where we don't need police, but you can't even imagine it yet because of the American propaganda that you've consumed your whole life. And being charitable, I can't even blame them for that.
Right. I I don't know how you can categorize ICE and police differently. They're all part of the same monster with different limbs that are reaching out and
Hmm.
attacking. And, I don't know how aware people are as far as the minimum qualifications and requirements for an individual to become a cop, but they're not great. And they basically don't require a lot of anything. Most of them have a requirement you have to be at least 21 years old. I was actually looking at this up while you were
Hmm.
talking. High school diploma or GED. Some programs will require a college degree, but most of them don't. Driver's license, you've got to be a citizen. Basically, a background check. If you can pass that with no felonies, no domestic violence offenses, and no serious criminal history, but you can have misdemeanors,
Hmm.
physical fitness exam screening, so psychological evaluations. I haven't seen what those look like, but those would be questionable at most. Drug screening, polygraph sometimes. So yeah, I mean it's not a lot, folks, and I'm pretty sure the requirements for ICE agents are less.
Yeah, I mean, here in California, to become a police officer, it takes more time to become a barber than a police officer. It
Yeah,
takes more time to become
same here.
like a hairstylist or esthetician and all that stuff than it does to become a police officer. And police officers do not have to know the law,
No.
and they're supposed to enforce it. I mean, it's just the whole system is based off of being an overseer, a slave catcher, and even the star that symbolizes the sheriff symbol comes from being that slave catcher. And a lot of people don't know that history. And it's really sad and it shows.
Yeah, completely agree. And one thing that a lot of people tend to overlook, like when we say F the police and, abolish the police and all that sort of stuff, what we're saying is the system in place that continues to perpetuate the police violence and the police structure and the system they're in. And so that doesn't just involve making sure that the law is followed, quote unquote. That's also making sure that individuals are trained for what they might encounter, including things like mental health crises. Because a lot
Hmm.
of things that I have seen in the court system, in the police system, and stuff like that are the result of mental health crisis. And there's no understanding whatsoever as far as neurodivergence, what one should have as far as help and assistance, as far as being in crisis, having some sort of situation that triggers a psychosis episode, mania, any of these types of situations. And as someone who has, had family and stuff in and out of incarceration, full disclosure, most of the people who are incarcerated probably just need psychological assistance. Most of them. If not, some sort of rehab type situation. So, substance use and substance disorders, stuff like that, all of it's not really trained to cops. And I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but there's a lot of depth to what we talk about when we talk about the system of policing. There's a lack of awareness. There's a lack of education. There's a lack of continuing education. There's a really harmful culture of, let's be honest, the white male patriarchy, and
Hmm.
the whole image of portraying toughness and enforcement and stuff like that. And all of it just perpetuates this culture that's going to, of course, backfire when the people start realizing what's actually going on.
Exactly. And I think that one of the things that you were getting at is like, we as board certified behavior analysts, we've been trained in de escalation tactics.
Mm-hmm.
As even a behavior therapist, behavior interventionist, I had worked with a lot of individuals who had what some people call aggressive behavior. I try not to use that language. I try to
Yeah,
say
same.
specifically what the behavior is. A lot of hitting, biting, spitting,
Yeah.
kicking, punching, throwing, all those behaviors. I had students that engaged in high levels of those behaviors, and I still was able to de escalate without putting my hands on them, without hitting them, without bringing a gun and shooting them. And I had been trained to be able to do that, whereas one, police officers are not, especially with populations of individuals with disabilities. That's one.
Yeah.
Two, when we talk about abolition, a lot of people think it's just tearing things down. And I like to describe abolition as, let's say that there's a garden and there's a rotten tree. And what we need to do is, it's no longer serving the purpose. It's harming other things around it. So we take it out and we plant another seed and we cultivate what we want to be able to grow. And then we make sure that we give it the nutrients, the sun, and everything and the water that it needs to grow. And then it's more healthy for the environment. When we say more healthy for the environment, what are we talking about? Putting people in cages historically and by research does not actually help the individual. It doesn't actually really help the society have an individual come out being better able to engage with and support the society they're coming out into. What it does is it really just makes profit for the state or for the individuals who own the private prisons. So what we need to do is we need to have a place that's actually going to rehabilitate people. We need to actually have opportunities to have people, truly apologize and make amends. We need to have opportunity. We need all these things. And we know through behavior science that simple punishment and punishment for a long period of time without that's very far away from the problem behavior is not going to effectively change the way that the individual behaves in the future. So from a behavior analytic and behavior science standpoint, prisons and jails are terrible and don't work. From any type of research you do outside of that, you'll see that prisons and jails don't work. It's a profit making system for the state to continue slavery, as is in the 13th Amendment.
Yeah. That it's almost like we want people to continue to be repeat offenders because we profit off of it and we
Yeah.
keep them at the bottom. And that's why, you have individuals who commit commit crimes. We'll just use air quotes on that because it's
Hmm.
subjective. And so you have so many repeat offenders because the system is set up to make them fail. Like there's no rehab, there's no behavior change involved. And so pulling in the science, I know that there are some BCBAs who are working within corrections and they're working in rehabilitation type structures. It's not a lot of them though. And so
Hmm.
it would be wonderful to be able to kind of speak with somebody who does that sort of work. And so let's
Hmm.
put that on the list for something to eventually hopefully get. But yeah, it's I really appreciate the way you summarize a lot of this. Sometimes, my disability with autism, sometimes words are kind of hard to find, and especially when like the feelings are greater, um, the feelings tend to like push down my ability to communicate a little bit better. So I really
Hmm.
appreciate you elaborating more on that, especially that mental health piece, because I know you and I have worked with a lot of populations that are really exploited in that regard, and it would be not okay for us to gloss over that. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that for me, it took a lot of reading and learning to get to where I am. Like I'm even like right
Same.
now, one of the books I'm reading is Let This Radicalize You by Kelly Hayes and Miriam Kaba. And Miriam Kaba has another book that is about abolition. And that's one of the ways that I like came to really understand more about what abolition looks like. And it's not just tearing things down. And I will add these books. We do have a running list of literature that is
Have you
available
still not added
after we
them?
get off. Yeah, after we get off, I'm going to add the books because I was thinking about that before we got on. I've been
That's
on vacation, but
hilarious.
I'm back now and I'll add them because I got time now and I got the desire to do stuff. But it takes a lot of learning to get to like where you want to be, where I am. And like you said, there are some BCBAs that are in the criminal justice system. And some of them I've really admired what they do and their outcomes. Sometimes when they talk as an abolitionist, it kind of irks me with some of the stuff that they say and the language they use and the way that I feel they're operating within these systems. Especially because like I'm just
Yeah.
like we need to
Are
tear
you
these
for it or are
systems
you against
down.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, some like in certain places reform is not acceptable. We cannot reform something that was created to enslave and to make money off of other people's labor, um
Yeah.
capitalism. So but there's also the harm reduction aspect of it. And I understand that we can't just tear down the system overnight. So there's time that needs to be taken, there's steps that need to be made. So, I wrestle with that as well. I am never so righteous as to being like, you have to do it like this, or you should do it like that. Like, we're gonna have disagreements when it
Oh, for
comes to
sure.
how we want to get to the better place we believe we should be. And that's totally understandable because we come from different walks of life, have different histories, learning histories, and read different books. But the thing I think is important is working together to make it better.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so easy to look at these systems. And right now, I love that you mentioned a book that I'm now going to add to my list. I have started Original Sins, and I don't know if I
Ooh.
can. I
Can you
can't.
put your hand behind your yeah,
Does it?
sometimes it helps.
No, it doesn't.
Uh
Okay. Well, it's Original Sins. It's by Eve Ewing, and it's about
Eve
how.
Ewing, she writes a lot of comic books.
Oh, does she? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it's basically about miseducation of black and native children and the construction of American racism. And so I'm looking at like the educational system now, which I know you're fully aware of and invested in. Like, where do I start with that tea? But yeah, and I think about that a lot now. And it's like, not only do we have like the prison system, we also have the education system and like
Yeah.
how it's all been set up. And it's just so layered with all of this racism and classism and sexism and all of it. It's like, unless you just wipe the slate clean, I don't know how you can fully bounce back without
Hmm.
having those systems in place. It's like, the argument for reparations. It's like, well, those are totally valid because the system has been going for so long that how do you even make that up to people? How do you even get to the point where everything is equitable? It's
Hmm.
just, it's daunting. I know it's not for us to solve and fix, but I know that we're loud and proud about doing that work. It's just, how do we even do it? Yikes.
Exactly. And I think that a lot of the times it's like people hear reparations and, no, 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 can't, no, and it's just like, if you
That's
don't have a
silly.
historical context, what you're talking about, your no's, are really coming from white supremacy culture. And a lot of
Uh huh.
people just don't really have an understanding of what white supremacy culture is and how much it encapsulates. And they'll be like, oh, no, it's not, I'm not. It's like, yeah, but you're spewing talking points that were made up from white supremacy culture. Like when you're talking about
Right.
how education is, like people don't really understand how Americanized education has been used as a weapon, how it's
Mm-hmm.
been used and it's been infused with American propaganda. Like,
Yes.
just the what we learn and what we don't learn. Like when you see the white man's face that looks like an Egyptian with the headdress of an Egyptian, and he's in Egypt, and it's a history book. Just that right there, you know what I mean? And then even
Yes.
what's it what's it called? Mick something that does all the textbooks. Mick
Oh, McGraw Hill?
McGraw
Or,
Hill. That's Ghislaine Maxwell's father.
yeah. Yeah,
So
fun
I
fact
mean,
about
like
that one.
like it goes deep, and people that don't look into that really have no understanding. So it all goes back, and like, just if you think about like Pythagorean theorem, like that
Yeah.
was found, I'm pretty sure, by a different like Indian dude, who we only name theorems and stuff after white people, and everybody else it's either given a white person's name or it's given a name that is describes that theorem and not the person that identified it or created it or came up with it or discovered it. And it's just that when you start to understand that, and then even how the world is organized, like Mount Everest, it's not actually called Mount Everest, it's called something else from where it is, but we just let a white dude name it. When you start to learn all those things, your world opens up, but you're not going to learn those
Yeah.
things in an Americanized or an American education system because they want to use education as a weapon and use propaganda within it.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny, you were talking about, I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny, ironic. You were talking
Hmm.
about basically how white people appropriate technology or discoveries or whatever, and putting their name on it. Is appropriate the right term for that? Like, if I put my
That's
name on something,
yeah, yeah,
then
yeah, yeah. I
okay.
think that's good. I think that's good.
Okay, so yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny. Like, I was reading this book about the history of the rape kit, and it was really interesting. So, the rape kit was actually discovered and established by a woman. However, this woman felt that because she wanted it out there, and this was like in the 70s, she wanted it out there, she wanted it to be readily available to help punish individuals who raped, particularly women,
Hmm.
on getting their just dues. And she basically collaborated with a man on that, and his name ended up taking the credit for the rape kit. But she did that because she knew if her name was primarily on it, it wouldn't get out there. It wouldn't get the recognition. It wouldn't get, everything. And so that part of the culture is also understanding that, hey, if I just want this for the common good, if I put somebody else's name on it, if it's a white man, it'll go. And that's happened throughout history. That's not just with black individuals, that's not just with women, it's with anybody who's had a major discovery. And whether or not the textbooks have rewritten that or reframed it in a way that appeases that agenda or not, there have definitely been instances in history that highlight that sort of hierarchy, which is so disturbing.
Yeah, I mean the same thing happened with Einstein and his ex-wife. She actually came up uh, with him, or maybe even just by herself, a lot of the stuff that he is known for. And then when they divorced, she was like, "Well, I just want the money. You can have the acclaim." From what I remember from this
Yeah.
TikTok that I learned about this, and he they ended up divorcing because he wanted to sleep with his cousin. So I mean, and we don't even now hear
Let's
about
unpack
her.
that.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's
and it goes
unpack
all the
all
way
that.
back to like Socrates, and like Socrates, he had a teacher, I believe, who was a woman, and we don't even like people don't even talk about her or know her name or know who she was. And it permeates so much. So like these isms are so deeply embedded into history, into our culture and society, that we really need to unpack and demystify and undo that. People, if they don't take time to look, it's in a book, reading Rainbow for a second, it really becomes problematic. And then we get to like, how like, oh well, I would love to make a TikTok about it. Well, now TikTok is owned by Larry Edison, whatever, white dude who's old and a billionaire who's going to be like, if you say this stuff, we're going to make sure it gets heavily suppressed, even more so than before. Try to go on to Instagram. We got someone over there that's a white dude who's a billionaire who's going to heavily suppress it. You go to X, the Everything app, white dude, billionaire over there who's going to make sure it's heavily suppressed. So it's really difficult to get this education out there because there are powerful individuals who make sure that it's heavily suppressed.
On that same token, even within ABA in particular, I think you probably know where I'm heading with this. There's been a lot of criticism as of the start of this year, primarily about professionalism and what that looks like and having your arguments heard. And let me see if I can just pull up the comments. So Ray
Oh,
Miltenberger,
yes.
you knew where I was going. Ray Miltenberger, who is a faculty member, I used to respect the hell out of him because I did my studies for thesis and dissertation in sports. And if you know the name Ray Miltenberger, it's probably because you're interested in sports studies and sports research within behavior analysis. So the comments made recently by Ray Miltenberger kind of go back into the whole white male supremacy idea of let's keep us on top, let's keep everybody else down. Well, it won't let me look at it right now. But basically, to summarize, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I missed something here, or
Hmm.
I misrepresent the quote. But it basically said that, well, your criticisms can be valid, but we need to make sure they go through the proper sources. So they need to be published in journals. They need to be peer reviewed. They need to be all these things. Well, with the article that came out, what was it, last year? Was it Cream et al? That basically talked about unless you've published, you're not considered an expert,
Yeah.
and your lived experiences aren't valid, basically. It's basically reiterating that conversation. So,
I
oh,
think that's
thank you.
the
That
yeah,
is the
yeah.
quote. So, yeah, let's do better in 2026. As we move into 2026, I'm putting out a call for behavior analysts to do better on social media. There are too many unprofessional posts. Any amount is too many. So, let's be.
No operational definition.
It's okay to disagree with each other, but do it in a professional and scholarly manner in any public forum. Tone policing, anybody?
Yeah.
Tone policing. Oh man, it's just there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah. I mean, I can stop sharing. I think we get the point, I guess. Um
I guess.
I I have a plan to respond formally in a peer-reviewed paper if it gets through peer review.
I was gonna say,
But
good luck.
yeah, but to sum up my thoughts in a quick, easy way here on the pod, anytime someone's calling for professionalism, that is a dog whistle for being in close proximity to white European standards.
Yes,
Let me
particularly
elaborate,
male.
particularly male.
Yep.
So, professionalism means this hair is unprofessional
Yep.
because it's not white male
This hair
proximity.
is
Maybe,
unprofessional.
yeah, maybe tie it back. We'll see if that's still allowed. And I'll have to create a law such as the Crown Act to actually be able to wear my hair the way that it grows out of my head. What in the world, what in the hell does
Ridiculous.
it mean to have an unprofessional post? There is no um so first of all, this is on social media that he said this, so he's already breaking his own
Right.
rule.
I know the
Let's
irony.
start there. Also, he did not explain what unprofessional means via any type of pinpoint plus or operational definition. He failed there. Then we also have the fact that he is calling for something that he hasn't explained it. So there's doing your job and there's being unprofessional. I could imagine that there are some things that are not okay at your job. That just means you're not doing your job well. Classically, historically, unprofessional has meant we want you to adhere to these standards. We want you to comply to these standards. And he is white manning in a way that should not be old white man online. But I mean, you see it. And I say, if I'm being charitable, which I like to try to do, is I'm not going to blame the learner. I'm going to say that he has had a reinforcement history of this in the past. He's probably been told to be professional or has learned and been brought up in a way that he's been instructed that that's important and significant, and he doesn't probably understand the importance of breaking down those barriers and breaking down those traditions. And I mean, at this point, he probably enjoys them. It probably helps him in a lot of ways. We tearing all that
Right.
BS down. And I think it's important to do so because the professionalism that he desires in no way prevents anybody being unprofessional. Doesn't prevent them from being scientific. It doesn't prevent them from contributing in a desirable way to the science. And it's really just his problem with the way that people are behaving online. And I would tell him, if you got a problem with somebody, either bring it up to them or turn off your phone and open a book, my bro. Like, just walk away from the laptop, as people like to say. Because this is totally his problem. And I think that what he's concerned with is how we, quote unquote, look to others when it comes to how people perceive behavior analysis. And I don't know who he's talking to. I don't know what he's coming up with when he's concerned with how we look to others. But how does he think he looks to us? How does he think he looks to black, brown, young, neurodivergent individuals, disabled individuals when he says this kind of BS?
Oh, totally. Yeah, and that's what I think. It's a trickle down effect. We talk about these large scale systemic issues, and they trickle down within education, within behavior analysis, within all of these different areas. And you're absolutely right. Like, we are a product of our environment. We are a product of the contingencies that shape our behavior. And
Hmm.
when a white man privileges, the white man privileges, and
Hmm.
it's their environment. Well, this has worked for me. I don't understand why this publication route would not work for you as a woman who publishes novel research within ABA, or you
Hmm.
as a precision teacher, black male, you know
Hmm.
tries to get your publications out, and I don't understand that issue. And I will say this. So my first attempt at publishing, I did submit to Java, which, I had to learn. I had to learn the way that things work in publication and
Hmm.
academia and all that. And so I had a dance study, which was loosely based off of something that Milton Berger had co authored. And so when I actually got my feedback from that journal, he was the main editor on it, and he emailed me directly. He was so kind and he was so encouraging. And so this is why I say it's really important to understand the environment around an individual. I'm not excusing behavior. I want to be very, very
Hmm.
clear. So
Hmm.
you can have good intentions, but do bad actions and not
Hmm.
realize that the values aren't aligned.
Yeah.
Being a product of that environment and being so ingrained, if you've been in academia for years and years and years, which some of these leaders, i.e., white men leaders in our field, have been in for years in these tenured positions at esteemed institutions, they've been kept under this very rigid idea of what is acceptable and what's not. And it's really going to be a challenge to undo that. It's going to be met with defensiveness, like this post, for instance. I see it as defensive.
Yeah.
I see it as panic. I see it as, oh God, they're onto us.
Yeah.
He may not realize that's what we see, but it is what it is. And so we know, you and I both know, that you're more likely to get published if you are a white man because you're doing the professionalism thing and you're reiterating the same bullcrap that they've been publishing for years and years. Not that research is bullcrap. I want to be clear, but like we can
Hmm.
only have so many replicated studies on discrete trial training before I basically want to beat my head against a brick wall. So
Yeah.
come on, like let's do some different stuff. Like I've been looking for different topics just this morning. Like I've had a lot of imposter syndrome, which we can, break down in another episode, which might be a good one. There's no behavior analytic research on imposter syndrome. And that's something that I struggle with. That's something that I know all my students are struggling with, et cetera, et cetera. Why are we continuing to replicate the same crap when we have actual things happening that we could
Hmm.
probably do some really good work on that we still don't have any research on? So yeah, it's because of that perpetual system. We're reinforcing the standard and the norm, and oh no, we're scared because they're onto us and now they're like talking about us on social media. Yeah, that's kind of the point. It's
Yeah.
kind of the point.
Yeah. And also it's like, why do you think they chose to go the route of social media? Like, do
Right.
you understand that like publishing
They
for
had no other
you may be
choice.
easy, but yeah, but these are like there are barriers to publishing. When you publish, and he may not remember because he's older and he's been publishing for a long time, but when you publish, what you provide originally and what gets actually published sometimes are so
Yeah,
very different, a lot of your voice
very
is
different.
lost, is lost or changed or made smaller, or it's even made less verbose, and the person that you're coming across as may not come across as as indignant, as frustrated, as any of those feelings, because it needs to come from this scientific, idealized white male voice that is quote unquote objective. When you cannot come to any research, to any publications with an objectivity at all, because everything that you've done, all of your experiences that you've had up to that point make up the behavior that produced the publication. And you cannot divorce yourself from those things. So when people go online, what they're doing is they're bypassing all of those barriers and saying, this is me, this is raw, this is how I feel. I think that it's important that you look into why they're saying those things and what they're saying and listen instead of critique immediately and say, this is not how we do things. It may not be how you do things, but you never had the ability to get online to speak. And I promise you, Dr. Miltonberger, if you did have the ability to get online and say how you feel, you might have got in trouble too.
Yeah, no
And
kidding.
hopefully it would have been good trouble. I don't know you. I probably read one or two things from you, but this wasn't it, Chief. let's pack it up and try again. And I'll be coming with a publication hopefully to respond to this in your desired platform.
The snark is so good. I love it. Yeah, it's like people say, your heroes will let you down, and
Oh yeah, never meet your heroes.
never meet your heroes. And that's the thing. Like, being somebody who's written a lot of like dance, sports stuff and whatnot,
Hmm.
like seeing his name on everything was just like, oh man, that's good, 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 good.
Hmm.
This wasn't it. And
Yeah.
so I've seen a lot of people talking, especially recently, about a lot of the situation that's going on in Minneapolis in particular, where it's like, it's okay to now say, I'm not okay with this. It's okay to kind of take back, or, yeah, it's a little late. A lot of us are like, where have you been? We've been waiting with this party. You're really late to it. But it's
Hmm.
okay for you to decide, hey, that wasn't okay. And it speaks volumes. Like, when you put something out publicly, and this is something we deal with Nuraba quite a bit. When something is public and you put yourself out there, you are, it's almost like you owe it to the people who you have already kind of exposed yourself to retract that, to show how you might change your behavior, et cetera, et cetera. It's like we do call outs for a lot of bad
Yeah.
behavior that have happened within ABA, and people are like, well, what do you want them to do? They've done their thing. They're serving their time. They had their adequate punishment. Okay, well, first off, we need to learn from this, and second off, if many people know about it, then many people deserve the follow up for you to say, hey, here's how my values are now aligned. Here's the actions that I'm taking to fix the harm that I've done, et cetera, et cetera. Like, just make it known. Like, and it's not,
Yeah.
I don't know how to else to really explain that, but it's just, you owe that to the public, especially when you go out into public in the first place with these opinions
Hmm.
that are not it, and you're going to have to owe that to people.
Yeah, no, I heard a guy that I like to watch on YouTube talk about this, and a lot of people in the public sphere, they'll make a mistake or they'll say something that was wrong, and they'll correct themselves, they'll apologize. And one thing you have to know is if you make a public mistake or a bad decision and you apologize and you decide, especially to continue to be public, you're probably going to have new people come across that bad thing that happened in the past, and then you might have to apologize again, and that's
Yes.
okay. You can say, hey, I apologized before, I'll apologize again because that was wrong. It was wrong, I still believe it was wrong, and it doesn't cost you anything to just go and say, yeah, I apologize again. I'm moving better, I'm moving differently, I learned better, I'm doing better. And then you can keep it pushing. You don't have to keep it there. But like showing that you still have that remorse for that accident shows that you still regret that. I mean, and a lot of people are like, I'm not gonna apologize again. I never understood that. Because
Me either.
if I'm really sorry, if I really am apologetic, it costs me nothing to say, yeah, I'm still sorry. I am sorry. I was sorry. Like all of those things can exist together. And there's
Right.
this privilege taken. I wouldn't say it's only white male because I know a lot of it comes from the way that we socialize males. So that's what I'm going to come with right now, where it's like, oh, I apologized already. It's like, are you not still sorry? Did your apology then make it so that you no longer have to be sorry now? Like, what is that? That doesn't seem very humanistic or responsible to me. And then also about that imposter syndrome, I think I got we could do some inner behavior stuff with that. That might
Yeah.
be really cool, especially with that website that I was sharing with you about. Maybe next podcast, I'll talk about that website. But yeah, sorry to get us
we should
off
definitely
topic.
we should definitely do something on imposter syndrome, because
Yeah,
it's so prevalent, and it's a
yeah,
product of the culture all around
hmm,
us. It's capitalism. It's, all the isms laced in there. Yeah, yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about that. And
yeah,
yeah,
and
completely concur.
yeah. I mean, and also like really quick on that, so that you'll remember it. I'm really interested in the antecedent stimuli that evoke the feeling, the inner behavior of that imposter syndrome,
Right.
and being able to detect that. So we'll talk about that. Sorry, little science talk,
Yeah.
little shop talk. You're gonna get that in this podcast every now and then. But
Yes.
I I think that one of the things that I feel like we've done a good job at is talking about ICE, and I think that continuing to talk about ICE is the way that behavior analysts um, talk about how they feel about ICE, whether it be in professional or on the professional accounts, in their professional environments, or in private or in personal. I think that it's 100%, and I'm going to go as far as to say the curse word. I think it's 100% okay for on your professional, private, or personal account to say fuck ICE. I think you should be able to do that. I think it's free speech, and I think that it tells your any clients what type of timing you're on. It tells them that you're going to support them. It tells them that if this were Anne Frank, you would have Anne Frank in your basement or your attic. It tells them all those things with those two words. And to say that they shouldn't say that is really capitulating to power, and that becomes that whole silence is violence thing. What do you
Yeah.
think?
No, I completely agree. And that's the thing. Like, we're at this crossroads in history where if you don't speak up, then I feel you're just as guilty as the people who pull the trigger on those who've been murdered. I just, that's just where I sit on it. I don't feel unsafe expressing myself as a professional. I've had recent events come up where things that I put out on social media have been challenged. And I know you're
Hmm.
aware of those, but without going into further detail, I have full support, and nothing that I'm saying or doing is not in line with my values on social media. And as long as I stick with that and I continue to protect other people, I'm in a place of privilege for that, and I acknowledge it. I wish other people felt that same security. And if nothing else, if this can empower anybody to feel like they can speak up, hopefully, you get that power. But I think silence is compliance. And I think that it's also violence. And
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know how you could just stay quiet while all this is happening. I really don't. But that's me. That's my social justice
Yeah,
drive. It's right or it's
yeah,
wrong. It's black or it's white. It's yes or
hmm,
it's no. It's one or the other.
yeah,
Maybe
and
black
and
or white
and
is not the best way to say that. Now that I think about that, oh my gosh, there's another connotation that has been
yeah,
passed down. Holy cow, we were talking about that a couple episodes ago, like the black sheep and
yeah.
oh
Black
my
magic.
god,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
another
No, no.
one.
Yeah, enlightening, all that stuff. So I agree. I think that also while we focus on and like a lot of people attend to and like get a lot of attention goes to the bad things, I think that it's also important to talk about the good or the change that we're trying to make or the things that people are trying to do, like in Minneapolis, the general strike. um a lot of people don't really know what a general strike is. I have a little blurb right here that I just like to say and talk about because it's really important. Um, when it comes to the general strike, um, so the general strike is a coordinated economic shutdown where people refuse to go to work, school, or shop. Demonstrations, marches, and closures of local businesses demanded that ICE leave the state and that there be accountability for these deaths and murders and an end to aggressive federal immigration actions. A general strike targets the one thing that political and corporate power consistently responds to: economic disruption. Protests say that symbolic Protests that stay symbolic can be ignored, and a work stoppage cannot. When labor, consumption, and logistics slow or stop, profits fall, deadlines break, and pressure moves upward fast. That forces attention whether leaders agree with the demands or not. It also flips the power dynamic. Instead of appealing to morality because they have none, or asking for reform because that is insufficient, people withdraw their labor and participation. They demonstrate that the economy only functions because they make it function. This isn't symbolic resistance, it's the direct withdrawal of the behavior that sustains the system. That leverage is why general strikes are rare, risky, and historically treated as serious threats to power, because when workers stop working, the people at the top remember very quickly who actually runs things. And we're going to have another general strike this Friday. Actually, it's supposed to be, they're trying to get it to be like everyone across the country, Friday, January 30th, to, don't go to work, don't go to school, don't shop, withdraw your economic labor and paying into the system for that one day, and then it can show the powers that be that we mean business, because they all care about the bottom line is money.
Right. And yeah, I love this. And to add to that, I want to show a, it's a short list compared to some of the ones that I've
Mhm.
seen, but there is a list of companies that have active contracts with ICE, and we're being called to basically boycott and not provide any sort of money to those organizations. And this is just a few of them, but
Mhm.
I'm struggling with how I can avoid FedEx and UPS, and strictly go through the postal service. If I order something, I don't really get the choice as to sometimes how it's shipped to me, so that's a challenge. But like AT&T, consider changing your cell phone provider. I am Comcast, Charter Communications. I know Amazon's included on that. Whole Foods, all of that.
Mhm.
So just kind of wanted to. There we go. Like, how do I stop screen share on this? Just kind of wanted to mention that as well. So you can have like an impact just with small changes, like canceling your Amazon Prime account and no longer supporting them. Walmart's always been on my no list. Do not
Mhm.
support. So yeah, making sure that you're a conscious consumer. I used to live in an area where Walmart was like the only option, but we lived around the home office, and so it was basically Walmart land. Thank God I finally escaped, or thank science I finally escaped as
Yeah.
a non-religious person. But sometimes you may not have the option. If you do have the option, try to be a conscious consumer and make that difference. Hit them where it hurts. Like Target's lost a ton of profit since they
Mhm.
revoked their DEI initiatives, and it's because of action that we're all taking to not shop there. So
Exactly.
do that. Hit them where it hurts. That's all they care about. So let's get them there.
Exactly. And um I think that one thing, to be clear, is that uh sometimes it can be difficult. Like, I think that what you kind of pointed out with what you were just saying, especially with Walmart, like, it can be difficult
Mm-hmm.
to protest some
Yes.
places where that's the only place. Like, if it's your only grocery store within like 100 miles, you're not going to be able to protest that, and that's understandable, and that's okay. It's all, really important is where you can, putting your dollar where you believe they have similar values, and removing your dollar from places where they don't, when you have those choices. In the capitalist system that we currently have, you don't always have that choice. There are a lot of things that are better than what we have available to us in our forced choice economic system, that people have in China, people have in Japan, people have, excuse me, in the Philippines. They have those choices, but they specifically don't allow them here, not because they're bad, but because they know that the Americanized products, or the products that are provided, can't compete with those choices. So they make it so that they're not provided for us here. So it's really important to have that, huge contextual understanding of what's going on.
Completely concur. And not to completely shift and pivot back, but I just thought of a point from when we were
Hmm.
talking about apologies. I want to make it clear, maybe this is just me being literal, but if you say, hey, I apologize, that's not an apology. So being clear, I'm sorry for the actions that I have done, and not I'm
Hmm.
sorry you felt that way, or, just saying, well, I apologized. Okay, but you didn't actually say you were sorry for those actions. You didn't actually talk about the impact of those actions and how that affected other people and how you're going to change and do better. Anyway, so that was just something that I totally had forgotten, and it just came to me. Little moment there. And it seems that a lot of the times it's a pride thing. I apologize. Okay, well, what does that mean? Can you break that
Hmm.
down a little bit more for me? Gotta love the literalness of autism.
No, I love what you're saying because I'm actually going to share my screen. Um, because I wrote a script, of course, I wrote a script about this, about how to apologize because I've
Love it.
noticed if it's not
A
taught
lot of people don't
explicitly,
know
directly, exactly. So let me share my window right here. I'm not going to read all of this, but really, how to apologize. First, say what you did directly.
how.
Second, show actual remorse. Third, make amends. Fourth, knowing when to apologize is warranted. If what you did would have bothered you and the situation were reversed, that's enough reason right there to apologize. Fifth, check your motive. Sixth, choose the method that fits. And finally, once you've apologized sincerely, let go of the outcome. Not everybody's going to say, I accept your apology. You
Totally.
can't
And
control that.
that's okay.
Yeah,
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 you can send it out into the atmosphere, you can send it out into the universe and have it out there. And especially if something has happened publicly,
yeah.
100%. And like, I'm not going to go into specifics on any of that. I thought about going into specifics on something, but I'm not going to on that. Um, oh my God, there was something else I was going to mention. Anyway, um,
It's okay. Maybe I'll remind you. But, and also one of the best apologies is change behavior after you actually
mhm.
apologize. So that,
Yeah, I feel
that,
like we really need like an infographic for that, for like
yeah,
Neurata, because
yeah.
that would be fantastic to say, hey, if you want to complain about us calling people out for doing really crappy things in the name of a science, here's how you could apologize and make amends for that and show people what it could be like to actually change your behavior and be a good example of what we could do in the field to move forward.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know, maybe
No,
that's none of my business, but
no, I think that we're recognizing gaps in learning. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if and when it is taught explicitly how to apologize. And I'm sure there are some people that would be upset.
yeah.
Don't teach my kid how to apologize.
Yeah, and
Go to
I
private school,
definitely
bro.
I
Yeah.
see those people I've worked with historically.
Yeah. So, but I think that's an important lesson, especially when it comes to teaching empathy and sharing, that learning how to apologize should be one of those things as well. And if we're not explicitly teaching our young learners, then how can we expect them to know it when they grow up?
Well, it's definitely a piece of emotional intelligence, is what they call that whole area of awareness of yourself, awareness of others, how your interactions will, have conflict and how you resolve conflict and all that sort of stuff. And so, I was raised in an environment, and of course, by, the baby boomer generation, there was not a lot of emotional intelligence. And a lot of people my age, I'm 41, full disclosure, a lot of people my age had similar experiences. And so we were not modeled any of those behaviors. And so, like, especially my age and older, there's no awareness fully on how to apologize. And that's something that
Yeah.
I've had to self teach. I would have loved a model like what you had earlier. It would have been great. It probably would have saved me a lot of trouble. And of course, there's my lack of awareness of social norms and rules and regulations, and me trying to follow this standard of, well, I'm trying to do this thing that's right, but you're not doing that back, and it doesn't make sense. And so, yeah, there's a lot there. So, emotional intelligence, work on developing your emotional intelligence skills and all those different behaviors that can fall under that umbrella. That's the biggest thing that I could recommend any human being to do, especially now.
Same. And also go to therapy.
Yeah,
Some
therapy's
people,
not
you know,
scary. Good
yeah.
grief.
And like I think that especially for men, like looking into your emotions, why do you feel that way? Why did you do that? Why did you do that then? Like it's not something that we're taught. You know what I mean? You're kind
No.
of just like going from emotion to emotion. You're often only allowed to express a range of limited emotions. Um, you know, that being anger and you know stuff like that. Um, I think it's really important to be able to kind of work on those things with therapists. So you know, I my fiance is a marriage and family therapist,
Yay.
and she recommends going to Psychology Today or OpenPath.com, and through there you can find a therapist. You can break it down based on their identity. You can break it down based on people who, if you're not able to pay full fees, have fees that you may be able to afford or insurance and stuff like that. So, highly recommend it. I've been probably going to go back, just, you know, work on some stuff, be better. And, you know, when you're better able to be better for other people. It's like, you know,
Yes.
putting on your mask before you put somebody else's mask on in an emergency.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that a lot of people tend to overlook or gloss over. And I don't know if it's a privilege or accessibility issue, it could be, but there are a lot of times that if you're having a conflict with a friend, like I'm managing one right now with a friend of like 15 years and having some mental health struggles on her own and stuff like that, and talking with another mutual friend, it's like maybe we should go to therapy and talk about this and how we should handle things on our end. Maybe we should, go and clarify some of that. And so it's definitely something that a lot of people don't think of a lot of the time, but
Hmm.
anytime that you're struggling with, I don't really know how to move forward, I don't know what my feelings are with this. That's what I talk about a lot of the times. Like, what is this feeling? I have no idea how to
Hmm.
identify it. I have no idea how to express it. Autism, gotta love it. But that is when the therapist can come into play. And I would rather go to my therapist and her be like, Robin, really? Like, you want to talk about this? And I would rather her do that and to know that I've covered all my bases than to like not take care of myself in that way, because the harm that can actually come is way more detrimental if you aren't proactive about your mental health. So, and there's been several times my therapist is like laughing and, in a kind way, laughing. And
Hmm.
she's like, the fact that you're worried about it tells me everything about your personality, because like only you would worry about this thing, and
Hmm.
I have that rapport with her, and that's
Yeah.
okay. But I'd rather be safe than like miss something and be like, wow, I was actually a shitty human to everybody. I don't didn't want to
You
do
don't want to
that.
be that. Yeah.
I
And I think
don't
that,
want to be that.
yeah, I think also there's like a cultural thing too, where like I know in black culture, African American culture, there's a lot of people that are against it. And then even in behavior analysis culture, I
Yeah.
know that there are a lot of people that is, oh, mentalism. And it's like, okay, well, we unless you are a methodological behaviorist, we understand, us radical behaviorists understand that there are emotions, feelings, thoughts, urges, all those things. And as you go to a physician for your physical health, you can go to a mental health specialist for your mental health. And you know, you might just want to check it out and see it. You might be able to investigate some things, some of you know your learning histories, put a behavioral, some of the reinforcement history, punishment history that is operating on your behavior that you never metacognitively thought about beforehand.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a lot of overlap with, ACT and private behavior and stuff like that. My therapist is actually DBT
Mm,
oriented. There's a lot of overlap there as well, as far
yeah.
as like, let's change our behavior, let's change our thought patterns, let's reframe this, and it's been very beneficial. And so I, for what it's worth, since I started in the field, there was like the huge divide of radical and methodological behaviorism. And I feel that for what it's worth, that gap is becoming wider. and
Hmm.
in a good way. So I think that the field is finally starting to embrace more of that. It's more of like those old school ooh, doggy. It's more of the old school people that are just starting to like slowly wither away into retirement and fall off the radar. So I think it's getting better for what it's
I
worth.
I agree, and I always have this like joke that I can't stop myself from saying. It's like, "Oh, you're a methodological behaviorist. Do you love your wife? You must not." Like,
Yeah, right, totally.
you
Because
know,
love isn't like observable or objective
no,
or defined
no,
clearly, and
no.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I'm sure you hated that joke. Oh wait, you didn't. And like,
Yeah,
I can't stop poking the bear when it comes to that kind of stuff.
I love it. Well, and it goes back to I have this discussion with students sometimes because they want to target these private behaviors. And so like there's nothing wrong with targeting anxiety. There's nothing wrong with targeting a panic attack. There's nothing wrong with any of that because those alleged private events do have overt behavior paired with it. Like if I have a panic attack, I'm having a panic attack because I look like I'm
Yeah.
having a panic attack. The same thing when like some of our clients have anxiety, they may engage in more stimming or they may,
Hmm.
have some sort of auditory stimulus that they provide and that when that pitch heightens that might be a
Hmm.
time of major anxiety for them based on the behavior history that you've observed. And so be creative, be flexible, challenge what that box looks like for objectivity and what private behavior actually means. And we're getting better.
Yeah, and that's what's so interesting about science is pushing the envelope, not
Yeah.
just taking what you're given and playing within that sandbox, but thinking outside of the box, extending it, figuring out more about what nature is telling us, what exists, measuring, figuring out what to measure, how to measure, and then how to change what you're measuring across time. Like that
Yeah.
just like fills me up with excitement and joy. And
Right.
teaching younger emerging scientists, emerging behavior analysts, or precision teachers or behavior scientists to do those things, to go beyond the white book or go beyond what you've learned is so essential. Because if we only stick to what we've learned and what we know, we won't be able to go any further than that. And there is so much stuff we need to learn and so much science we need to do. And when you get your PhD and you're going through that process, you see just how much is out there, just how little we actually know, and how much more we have to do and have to go and have to learn. And if you get that bug, that research bug, then you really get to kind of engage in that, and it's a beautiful thing to me.
Yeah, and I agree on that excitement. And that was why I got my PhD, because I wanted to do the fun research, this research that nobody else has been doing. I didn't realize how punishing it would be to do that research, but that was the thing that was appealing to me. I was like, man, there are all these gaps. I want to address these and I want to show people what we can do with this strategy and all of that. And that excitement's still there. Now, there's the realistic side of me who's like, hey, good luck publishing, because you're going to have to scrape down, you were talking about this earlier, you're going to have to tone police yourself, you're going to have to strip down and water down your manuscripts.
Hmm.
But if it's something I want to get out there and I'm excited about, I'm still going to do it because I have
Yeah.
to play the game, unfortunately, until things change. But yeah, it's not all sunshine and roses. But if you're excited about it, it can keep you motivated.
It is such a roller coaster. Just yesterday, I got an email from a journal. I'll just say it, the Journal of School Psychology, that they basically gave my manuscript a desk rejection. And I think it's because I did single subject design, whereas they probably
Oh,
typically do group design.
yeah,
So I totally get it. And I'll just put that manuscript elsewhere because it was great science. It is great science. But then just today, I got an email that one of my other papers that I'm a co-author on got accepted. And
awesome.
then I'm very frustrated with one journal because I'm like, you guys accepted my paper on December 9th, and you still have yet to publish it. It's gone through proofreading, it's gone through multiple back and forths of changes, and you've accepted it to publish, and it just has yet to be published. Publish my study, please, because I want to
Yeah.
cite it, I want to share it, and build on it. And it's like it's beautiful, it's frustrating, it's everything in between. And we still keep trucking. The reinforcement somehow keeps us going. That intermittent reinforcement.
Very intermittent at times, and people don't understand how long it can take to publish, and it can take years for a study
Yeah,
that you've done like forever ago. And
yeah.
the the reward comes if you're persistent and you're obnoxious and you're all of the annoyances about it.
Hmm.
That's just it. Just be persistent, be annoying, keep at it, and it will eventually get published. It
Yeah.
just may take you a few years.
And that's how you get a PhD too. I mean, it's not about
Also,
being the
yes.
smartest. It's about being persistent. It's a
Yeah.
marathon, not a sprint. You're not the
Yeah.
fastest person. You're the person that was willing to endure throughout all of the struggle. And you may be the smartest person. Great. But you're still gonna have to endure. There's only so many shortcuts you're allowed to take.
Oh yeah, 100%. I tell my students that all the time. It's a degree in persistence and it's a degree
Hmm.
in perseverance, 100%. And also, having the loans to pay for your tuition. So
Yeah.
those are the two pieces. So I kind of randomly want to ask you about your thoughts on this, but it's
Hmm.
completely off topic.
Hmm.
And we can cut this as well. So did you see that Kanye West issued an apology?
Oh my God, I saw it. I did see that.
Okay, so I have thoughts, but I'm curious about your thoughts.
Okay. So
Or
we
I'm sorry,
talked
ye.
last.
He's ye now.
Yay,
We don't say
yay,
we.
yay.
Okay.
Yeah. So Ye apologized for, let's put into some context, for his anti-Semitism mostly.
Yeah.
He apologized a little bit for his anti-blackness.
Yeah.
And basically he also has an album called Bully that he expects to come out soon. Anybody that has ever been a fan of Ye or the artist formerly known as Kanye West knows that when he says he has an album dropping, it's very extremely variable as to when that's going to happen. So
Yes.
context, context, context. I think before anything, I think that he absolutely needed to apologize. I'm
Yes. Agreed.
happy he did. There's a lot of harm he's done with his language and his and the clothing he produced and all sorts of stuff for reasons as to why he needed to apologize. So he needed to apologize and he did. That's great. However, he apologized in a form of, one, he took out an ad, so it's not a me speaking, it's a polished written piece. He also, in the apology, I don't know how much of it you read, he
Read.
blamed his behavior on a manic episode. It's
Yes.
saying that he's also bipolar. He also blamed it on the car accident, I think in 2003, that he had. So it doesn't really feel like he's taking full accountability. While a manic episode could be part of it, it just it's difficult for me as somebody who for a long time was a huge Kanye West fan and now just straight up can't engage in any of his art. I even have like Yeezys that I've been for a long time. I don't wear them. Those are his shoes. I don't wear them. I've been thinking about giving them away and donating them because I can't support it. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel. I really need to see what he does and what he says moving forward. But I'm glad that he actually issued the apology because that was necessary. What do you think?
No, I'm spot on with you. And the thing is, when I read the apology, I was like, you know what? He's saying the things. He's saying, and like with your apology outline, I was kind of thinking about this. I'm like, okay, Kanye did that. Kanye did that. Kanye did that. And so like he checked the boxes. And like when I read it, as someone with mental health struggles, as someone who has a lot of bipolar people in my circle and manages a lot of these types of situations, bipolar is something that is just a different thing to tackle as far as mental health is concerned. And those manic episodes can be brutal. And they result in incarceration, they result in institutionalization and, hospitalization and all of that. And until there is an end to those manic episodes, that individual is not what I would consider in control of their actions. Now, as you were saying, that's not an excuse. That doesn't excuse the behavior. So, what was it? He was promoting like swastika clothing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't undo that harm. It acknowledges that there was harm, and he did specifically call out like the harm to the Black community and the community that he has really damaged the most, and perpetuated white supremacy culture. And I was very, very glad that he did that. But I definitely agree. I can't speak for somebody who is trying to make sense of their own mental health and their own diagnostics and stuff like that. And it's clear that he has needed support for a long time. Medication, therapy, whatever that may look like. But yeah, it doesn't absolve and remove the harm. It can definitely acknowledge it, but it doesn't
Yeah.
say, hey, by the way, we're cool now. It's a lot longer to undo that. Unfortunately, like you said, we need to see long-term sustainable behavior change. And I think this is right timing to talk about apologies as well because of this
Yeah.
being issued. So yeah, I was just kind of curious because I did read the whole thing, and for what it's worth, it did seem like it came from him directly. His
Hmm.
voice. I don't think it was watered down. I don't think that it was probably edited by somebody from his PR team, many, many people from his PR team.
Hmm.
But I don't think that it fully stripped his voice,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. But then again, I don't know him
Yeah.
personally. I've just watched,
Yeah.
things with him and I've heard him speak. And when he's well, I feel like I kind of have an idea of how he projects.
Yeah, and I think that it's one of those things where just like in science, we want to have a healthy level of skepticism,
Mm-hmm.
and also with when it comes to people, we want to be cautiously optimistic.
Yes.
Um because, well, what I would love for him to get better and be better. What I feel like I need from him next is when I see him in public, when I see him speak and when I see him talk,
Yeah.
there's there's a change that I need to see. I've watched like quite a few like video essays on Kanye West, and he's always had this no censor kind of problematic
Mm-hmm.
way that he approached things, and maybe it's a reason why a lot of people loved him. But there needs to be this reckoning where he understands his power, his privilege, his position, and how he decides to use language differently, and all that, and
Right.
as we move forward, I'd be really interested in seeing how that changes, and only time will tell.
Yeah, I completely concur. And I think for what it's worth, once again, not excusing him or his behavior, I think he's also diagnosed with autism. And that kind of explains the whole, like, bluntness and unawareness of,
Yeah.
you've got a guy who, for lack of better explanation, basically came into a life that he wouldn't have had otherwise, by talent and luck and knowing the right people and making those connections and all that sort of thing. And people around him have probably never had to tell him, hey, you have to watch what you say, or hey, maybe you shouldn't
Yeah.
phrase it that way or whatever. And not necessarily tone policing, but just
Yeah.
reading the room, the basics that like I've had to kind of teach myself and struggle with still quite a bit. But yeah, I think that there's bipolar. I think that there's autism. I think that there's many, many different things going on there. But having the perception of blaming the mental health issue is what society perpetuates. Like, that's still where we are as a society. It's ableism.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have that. I don't know how into true crime you are, but the Brian Koberger thing. He's the guy who basically mass murdered all those college students in Idaho recently.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna just say that he did it because there was DNA connecting him. Yeah, he's not
Hmm.
yet had his trial and been, convicted or charged with. Well, he's been charged with it. He hasn't been convicted. There we go. Let me get my
Hmm.
words right. And I'm fully innocent until proven guilty. But when there's DNA, I can't. I can't. And I think he pled guilty at this point. He's pleading
Okay.
guilty. But he's also saying that he is autistic, and that's part of the reason. And that I have a big freaking problem with that,
Yeah.
because you're now demonizing the autistic community and you're making us more unsafe by connecting us with mass murder. And like, I'm sorry, but like nowhere in my existence as an autistic person have I been like, I think I'm gonna go kill a bunch of people. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do true crime. Like my mug is a serial killer mug. And like, that stuff interests me. I want to know what makes people tick so that we can change behavior and not have that. But yeah, like that's where it becomes an issue. Like in Ye's situation, it's not as life or death, literally.
Yeah.
But like when we go to the extent of like true crime and it being like, well, I'm autistic. Okay, but what does that mean? Like, are you saying that
Hmm.
you can't be responsible for your actions as an autistic person? Do you realize how damaging that is? Now, I realize he's trying not to die by execution, but like,
Yeah.
come on, man. Come on.
No, no, I agree. And I think that one other thing with Kanye is not only the yes men that have been around him for how long, but also when you get to a certain level of wealth, you're disconnected with
Yes.
the general society. Now, I'm not going to
Yes.
go as far as to be like, oh, affluenza or whatever it's called when someone's so affluent that they don't think that their actions have consequences or whatever. But I do think that his inability to be able to empathize or understand a person on the street also adds to it, like how we see with like all these tech billionaires that are ruining
Yeah.
not only the environment but the society in their multitude of ways, whether it's Palantir or whether it's controlling media and all that stuff. uh, I think there's also a disconnect in humanity there too, and I know he lost a lot of money, so maybe he's getting closer to humanity. I don't know how that works because
Right.
I don't have all that money, and I don't think that we've done the research we need to really understand how that money really disconnects you from the average person. But I think that there's something there as well.
Oh, I completely concur. And any type of power dynamic is going to create disconnections. And even at the lowest tiers of us supervising RBTs or students or, providing that research guidance that we do for students in our roles, there's a level of disconnect. And I'm no longer practicing as a BCBA, and in part because of disability, I can only do like one full-time job at a time.
Hmm.
And so like there is a disconnect as far as me with practice now. Now, could I jump right back in and do it? Yeah, probably, but it would be a learning curve for me to get back into it because it's been like five
Yeah.
years now. But I can still provide supervision. I can still provide guidance and whatnot. I just make it clear that, hey, I'm just not in the trenches as much anymore. And that's just not something positionally that I desire to be back in. So even at those lowest tiers, those power dynamics are quite evident. And yeah, the more money you have, the more power that you have, the more that gap widens. It becomes harder.
Exactly. So that's how I feel about the whole Yay West thing. I was wondering another off topic, real quick, before I know we have to shut down soon. Um, are you playing any video games right now?
I am, yeah. They're kind of silly, but I needed just some silly distraction games right now. So I found this cheap water park simulator game on Steam recently, and I've been
Hmm.
playing the heck out of that because you get I'm a total achievement hoe, by the way. If
Hmm.
I see that I can get an achievement for something, I'm like, I'm in it. I'm gonna do whatever it
Hmm.
takes. And like, I've even made spreadsheets for achievements before, and that's how like. Can you believe I wasn't diagnosed for so long? So, yeah, I've been playing that, which is it has its moments. It's in early development and
Hmm.
early access, and so there's a lot of flaws with it. There's a lot of bugs, but like there's small things like people poop in the pool and you have to like clean it up, or like people come into the water park and after they change they have like a smell color around them like the lime green,
Hmm.
kind of like the guy from Peanuts, the
Yeah.
the dusty guy. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't remember his name. What's his name? Pigpen. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like like kind of given that Pigpen vibe, and you take a squirt gun and you squirt them multiple times to like get the stank off.
Hmm.
So it's just funny. It's light, and also like I've been zoning out with a power wash simulator because
Nice.
then I can clean things up and feel like I'm actually doing something to make the environment better and whatnot. Yeah. Any games you're playing? I'm curious.
Yeah, no, I just beat Metroid Prime 4 on the
Oh
Switch
wow.
2. So I never really was a Metroid person, but I was like curious, and I got my Switch 2 and I'm like, "Oh, this is the next you know, for single player RPG type thing." And I enjoyed it. I had my fun, and like this year I'm starting like a list, all the books I've read, all the articles I've read, and then I'm gonna also do all the games that I beat. Because I just beat games
Love
all
it.
year, and I don't even like think to record them or think about it. Once I beat them, sometimes, especially if it's a single player game, I just move on and don't even, like last year, I know I beat Donkey Kong Bonanza, Pokemon Legends, not Arceus, but it was Legends. Um, the new one, and then I also beat Mario Kart. So I mean, like it's like, oh, and Hades too, which I loved. It was amazing. But like sometimes you just like do this stuff, and it's like, dang, I completely memory hold that.
Yeah. Yeah. Having some sort of document on the time that you spend is a really good idea, and that's one thing I do like my library app. I try to specifically get books that are ebooks so that it tracks those for me. But yeah, like when it comes to like video games and stuff like that, that would be a good thing for me to do as well. That way I'm like, I don't look back on my time and I'm like, well, what did I actually do? And same with
Yeah,
like TV shows I watch, because
yeah.
like I go through different series. Like I'm watching through Charmed now for the first time ever, and
Hmm.
I've been told for years by friends, you would love this show. It's so you. It's very Robin coded. It's 90s, but it's also like witches and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I'm in that and I want to remember that. And I go to a lot of
Hmm.
Comic Cons too. So, like, that's also
Yeah,
good for tracking purposes. So,
yeah.
yeah, I
Real
love
quick,
that. I'm going to steal it.
have you? Yeah, good. Have you ever? I had this recently happen to me. Have you ever been recommended a show or felt like you should watch a show and you watched all of it and you're just like, I hated that. Why did I do that? That was terrible. I
Yep,
did not enjoy.
absolutely. How I Met Your Mother. Hated it. Hated it. Oh my god. It was like the only person I liked in that entire show was Neil Patrick Harris because it's
He's
Neil Patrick
hilarious.
Harris, and
Yeah.
I'm a huge NPH fan just because of who he is as a person. But
Hmm.
that show and Friends, I can't stand Friends, and I know that's gonna put me on some lists by people, and like I don't care. Like maybe it's because I didn't watch it when it was actually on, and so like
Hmm.
the context. But I'm like, none of these people are endearing. None of these people are good. Ross is the
Hmm.
worst. Like I have opinions about every single one of those characters, and How I Met Your Mother was basically like a more modern version of Friends to me,
Yeah.
and I hated both of them. So I that might be sorry if you're a big fan of Friends and How I Met Your Mother, but there you go. So yeah, I'm curious if you've had that too.
Yeah, real quick. So I've seen both of those. I don't feel strongly about either of them at this point. At one point, I liked How I Met Your Mother, but then you get to the end and you're just like, damn, that was a waste of
Yeah.
time. Um,
Right. Thank
but
you.
yeah, but one of them that I watched a lot of anime. I watched Attack on Titan. Now. This anime people loved. I caught it towards the end when it was just finishing, and my God, was it so terrible in my opinion.
Huh. You're
Not
the only one I've
so
heard say that. Wow.
well, one, like a lot of people like murder porn, like just everybody dies, everything bad
Yeah.
happens. That's one. Two, like when you like take a critical lens, it has a lot of like Nazi World War II like iconography that they like lean into as if it's like a good thing. Like you lean
Right.
into like a lot of the Nazi stuff and a lot of just like super problematic iconography and ideologies that are just bad. And then like dude murders 80% of the population or whatever at the end. And like so there's no happy ending really. And I get morally, gray stuff, but just like everybody dies, everything sucks, everything was always meant to happen. Like, sorry, spoiler alert, but like it to me, like I was like, there's no hope. Like, never in the series was there. It started off hopeless, it ended hopeless. There is no joy. Like, to me, there's no joy. Like, I,
Right.
I I want anime that like inspires. Like, if you ever heard of Frieren, amazing anime. It's like you learn like lessons on friendship and love and just like
Oh.
companionship and compassion. And it's like not a shonen, so it's not just, and it's written by a woman. So like it's all these things that it's like it's just so fresh. Whereas like Attack on Titan, I was like, all everybody said it's peak and it's so good, and
Yeah.
it's really just people like action, especially Americans. They just like action and blood and murder and death, and it goes to this whole death cult thing that a lot of white white supremacy culture kind of
Yeah.
gears towards, that it investigates fully. And I hated it, so
Yeah.
hated it.
Gestures broadly to society as to why this would be popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like, in what little anime I've watched, I like things like Yuri on Ice and like Kaleido Star. Like, those are
Hmm.
mine. It's like, oh, give me the fun, happy ones. I even have like Yuri on Ice necklaces, which is hilarious now that I think about it. But I love Yuri on
Nice.
Ice. Like, talking about deep cut. But yeah, I have no interest in like Attack on Titan, but I have heard people talk very highly of it, so I appreciate that take. Now it
Yeah.
basically has deterred me from wanting to watch it. And I have like the PDA where if someone's like, "Hey, you should watch this. You would like it." My instant reaction is, "No, now I don't want to watch it."
Yeah.
Well, now I'm not
No.
gonna. But
Yeah.
but then I'll like in the cover of darkness like check it out just to make sure. Like, is this
Yeah. No,
actually
no,
something
I
I'd
get
like?
it. No, maybe if the listeners want recommendations or stuff that we liked, we love to, or that they liked, I'd love to hear what they like. And listeners, please in the comments let us know also things that you want us to talk about,
Oh
things that
yes.
you want to hear us speak on and stuff like that. And we'd love to get your feedback and make it more of a dialogue where possible.
Absolutely. And even if it's something just small, like what's your favorite TV show or whatever,
Yeah.
anything is on the table, I think, for the most
Yeah.
part, other than like hate. I don't like talking about hate things, but
No.
and it's like, it's funny. It's like you said, you were talking about like brutal murder, mass murder, blah, 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 with, the shows that we watch and everything and the violence in the shows that we watch. Um, I don't like that sort of stuff generally, but like, give me a serial killer documentary and like it puts
Hmm.
me to sleep. Like, it's so weird. Like, what is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
But I know that's not like just a me event. Like, I know there are a lot of people who feel the same way, but I'm like, if it's based on fact, I'm in it. Like
Yeah.
documentaries, those reality shows,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But
And violence like in the medium, I'm not mad at, but like violence for the
no,
sake of violence, or like just like
right,
no purpose, just like murder porn, I'm not into that. Like, but
yeah,
but but like, when you're talking about the psychology, when you're talking about, why are you fighting, like in the anime Naruto, it talks about the cycle of violence, and like, how to end that cycle. Like, there, like when you get deeper into it, then yes, awesome, let's go, let's talk about it, let's investigate, let's do that. But if it's just like, oh, we fighting, and then we fighting, and then we fighting, unless it's Dragon Ball Z, then I don't care.
Right. Yeah, totally valid.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me put a pause.